Hi, and welcome to Feeding My Kids video all about how to introduce solids to your baby. So this is going to be the ultimate guide of everything you need to know to introduce solids. I have my lovely guest Shannon and her beautiful baby daughter Waverly. It took us a little bit to get the video started, so she's a little antsy sitting in the high chair now, but she did great for a while in the high chair. So what I wanted to do is really talk about everything from the right kind of posture when you're feeding your baby to allergy foods and really what to expect as you start the weaning process. So a couple things to consider when you're looking at your baby and you're thinking, how do I know when they're ready to start solids? So you really want to make sure your baby could sit upright by themselves, and it's okay if they fall over occasionally. You want to have them kind of putting things in their mouth and really kind of starting to mouth things. So those are all key things to know when your baby is ready. And there is tons of research that says that you really should wait until your baby is 6 months old until you start solids. And there's tons of reasons. So the link below is going to have a whole ultimate guide. So check that out with references and studies that show why you should wait till your baby's 6 months old. Some things to consider: are you going to do purees or are you going to do baby-led weaning? Baby-led weaning is when you let your baby actually hold the entire banana and really kind of start to suck on it and really eat foods in their entirety. Purees are where you mash up the foods, where you steam the foods, and you pre-make them and then you put them in a blender and you give your baby a puree type of meal. There's benefits to both, and there's no reason you can't do a mixture of both. So feel free to start the process and talk to your doctor just to make sure that your baby is ready before you start any kind of solids. So what I wanted to do is also just talk about all the foods that your baby can and can't have at this age, even starting as young as 6 and 7 months. They could have everything, bless you, except for 2 things, and that is salt and honey. So those are the only 2 things. I see blogs out there that talk about you can't have egg whites or eggs. If you have no family history of food allergies, there is no reason not to offer your baby eggs. Scrambled eggs are a great one of the first foods that you can give your baby. So yogurt is another great one. What I did learn myself, and this is all the things that I wish somebody had told me when I was introducing foods. One, you don't want to give anything that's 0% fat to a baby. You want to do anything that is whole milk and whole fat. Babies need 50% of their calories to come from fat for brain development. So make sure you're really looking and you're offering everything whole fat to your baby. Yogurts are completely safe at this age, but you do not want to give any whole milk. So your baby is going to be exclusively on formula or breast milk or a mixture of both, but don't give them any whole milk until after the age of 1. But this is something I learned. As you progress, don't let your babies and toddlers see the container at which you're giving it to them. So my kids eventually did get used to looking at what a yogurt container looked like, and they really started to prefer that over a bowl of yogurt. So that was something I learned, is just don't let them see what these look like. So they really do start to crave them and want them. So something else to think about, we've talked about, is allergies, right? So there's really this big fear, and they do recommend that you start a new food every 4 days. So let's say you're going to do bananas. What you want to do is introduce bananas, and then you could either introduce it one time a day. And generally that's what people do when they start at 6 months. They do the 1 time a day. That's usually more than enough. And then every few weeks you add another meal. So you might start with a breakfast and then introduce lunch. And then maybe by 7 or 8 months you can introduce dinner. So now they're eating 3 times a day. And a really good schedule is they always start with formula or breast milk first thing in the morning, and then about an hour and a half to 2 hours later, they're going to get their solid feeding. So you always lead with formula or breast milk. You ready? All right, Waverly, you ready? You coming in?
What? Them?
Your fingers in your mouth. You want to try it?
Yeah.
So
me.
what you want to do is look at that face. Hi. So what I want actually to start with is, while we're feeding her, is you don't want to, you want to hold on to that one? You don't want to, good girl. When you give the baby the food, don't scrape the food at the top of the mouth. You really want his or her lips to come over the spoon and take the food off. That's actually a milestone, and it's something they have to learn to do. They don't naturally know to do that. So it's really important that you don't She's so good. All right, go
She's
for
an
it.
enthusiastic eater,
Yeah.
just like mommy and daddy.
It is wonderful. So I was going to say, so if you see that she's a little dirty from eating, that is good. You want them to experience, you want them to touch the food, feel the food on their arms and on their face. You don't want to wipe them until after the meal. So much of how kids learn to eat is through experience and through all of their senses. So, enjoy how messy this can be and really savor it, but don't try to wipe the face. It's very important for the baby and the kids in general to get used to having food around their face. It's actually a part of the eating experience. So I'll give her a little bit more. And, we want to go at her pace. So if she wants to chew the spoon for a little while, let her chew the spoon for a little while. What I normally do is have 2 or 3 spoons available. So that way if she's busy with one, you could offer another. You don't want to introduce any kind of toys or any activities. You really just want to focus the meal on the food, but you can have like extra spoons to play with, but you don't want to introduce any other toys. And you also, just as a good habit to start even as young as 6 months, no TV. And because what happens is kids zone out on the TV and they're not paying attention to how much they're eating. And that becomes a habit where they don't learn to listen to the cues of their own body. So it's really important that even at this age that you start to create those healthy habits that will last a lifetime when it comes to eating. Something else, so we have a great article on the website. It's called, Are You Chewing Your Way to an Overeater? There's a lot of, airplanes and cajoling and I want you, let's get another bite. Come on.
She's like, okay.
All right. And you don't want to over celebrate every single bite. She needs to be the best judge of when she's full. So it's really important that you don't, you think as a parent, so I want to get all that formula or all that breast milk into them and I want them to grow and be healthy. And that's true. So you don't change any of that, but you do want to make sure that you're just teaching her to start listening to her own cues. And it starts as little as 6 months. You'll hear people say, eating at this age is just for fun. Most feeding experts would completely disagree with that statement. Nothing happens miraculously at a year. I had a doctor, one of my kids had actually some issues with chewing and jaw strength and tongue movement, and he had to go see an occupational therapist. But the pediatrician kept telling me, oh, food is just for fun up till a year. And I'm thinking, it's 11 and a half months old. How is this just gonna resolve itself
Right.
by a year? It's better to get ahead of it now than to deal with it into toddlerhood. So a big fear a lot of parents have, and I don't know, let me know if you feel this way, choking,
Yeah.
right? So I remember being horrified by the whole idea of choking. I remember thinking when they gag, oh my goodness, do we do the Heimlich? What do we do?
Yeah.
So what happens is with a baby, when they're born, their gag reflex is really low down on the tongue versus like as an adult, ours is all the way in the back of our mouth. And that's, to save them. So if they put a toy in their mouth or a piece of stick or mulch, it's actually made to help them from choking. But what happens is as they're learning and just experiencing food for the first time, they're going to activate their gag reflex. It does not mean they're choking. It does not mean their airway is blocked. You do have to look out for that. Generally, they won't be able to make too many sounds. But if they're just kind of looking like they're going to throw up and they're gagging, that's a normal part of them figuring out where the food should go in their mouth. So totally normal. Always watch the baby, obviously, while you're feeding them, just to make sure and get comfortable doing the baby Heimlich, on a doll. But feel comfortable that is a normal process of them learning how to move and manipulate food in their mouth. One thing I will caution you, if your child is gagging and maybe throwing up often, to kind of pause the eating and go see a specialist. Because what happens is if the child gags and throws up too many times, they could actually develop a food aversion, right? Because that's not a pleasant feeling.
Right.
So they're going to get a phobia. They can, not all kids, but they can get a phobia to food, and that's actually very challenging to overcome for kids. A really good thing to help with that is actually a spoon, exactly what she's doing. The more that she has a spoon in her mouth, the more that she's going to get comfortable with something being in there, and it's actually going to desensitize the gag reflex. So you do want to give her a spoon to play with pretty often, but again, make sure you're watching her. But if you guys do have any kind of other questions, we're going to do a whole series of these. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And I'd like to thank Shannon and Waverly for being amazing today.
Yay.
So thank you. Thank you. I hope you got a little bit out of this. Yeah, you did great.
You did.
Thank you.
Yay.
So thank you.
Thank you.